Counselor Gray does a pretty good job.
Counselor Green, would you like to pray for every leading? Okay. Yeah.
All right, let us pray. Father, we come before you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for your blessings. We ask you to be with us this evening as we have this meeting. Help us to be efficient. Give us your wisdom, your leadership, your guidance. We ask that you would bless all those who you've put in authority, that you would help us to lead the way you want us to lead and to follow your heart and your vision for this city. We pray you keep us all safe as we go from this place. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Roll call.
Green,
Here.
Ford,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Please stand and join Counselor Parks for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I have items E and K to be removed from the consent agenda. Are there any other items?
Move to approve the consent agenda minus items E and K.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Oops.
There we go.
Do I need to
Try it
push it again? Oh,
No, I came across right. All right, item E, we're going to come back to after item 9F. And then item K is approval of and authorization for the fire department to purchase 2 Pierce fire apparatuses from Conrad Fire Equipment. And Chief Moore, you're going to just talk briefly about that. Just, you have 3 minutes, sir. You're good.
Oh, it's not hot.
yeah, his
There you
mic's
go.
not hot.
There
Yeah.
we go. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilor, Mr. Spurgeon. Appreciate the opportunity to talk just for a second about the purchase of 2 fire trucks. These fire trucks will be purchased out of the 2018 bond money that was approved so gratefully by our voters. Keep us in good fire trucks and fire apparatus so that we can do the people's work or the Lord's work in public safety. And these trucks are both being purchased now, but we're purchasing them now using that bond money. We're doing a prepayment option, which means we're paying for them now rather than upon delivery. And that will save us about $219,000 because the manufacturer takes out a loan to build the trucks and the city would have to pay interest on that loan. So by purchasing the trucks now, that loan is not taken out. And so we save about $219,000. Also, we're making the purchase tonight because October 31st, the manufacturer has said they're going to have a price increase, which is very, very common with what we're seeing with inflation. And that is going to be a price increase on these fire trucks of about $87,000. So we're moving forward with the purchase right now. The overall cost of the fire trucks for both of them will be $1,746,334. And we will not actually receive the trucks for about 36 months. The ongoing supply issues that we're seeing with chassis and vehicles, everything from ambulance chassis all the way up to fire trucks is just extreme. We did something like this a few years ago where we made the purchase and got ahead of some price increases and made the purchase and then actually reimbursed some of the fire fund with bond money after that. But we made the purchase ultimately out of the bond funds. And so we're moving forward with that same process primarily just to get our place in line. It only takes about 9 to 12 months to build the truck, but there are that many trucks in line ahead of us. And we're buying, again, a Pierce fire truck. This will be the 7th and 8th Pierce fire truck that we've bought in the last, in the last 8 years, 6 years, we've bought 8 new fire trucks. And so we're really excited to get these. We would ask for your consideration in purchasing these 2 trucks.
Just wanted to be on the record, just so in case someone was wondering why you would buy it now and not receive it for 36 months, but it holds that place in line, gets us cost break and secures the equipment. So,
Right.
Saves us a lot of money too.
It saves us a lot of money if we were to wait and purchase both of these trucks in 2026 or 2027 when we expect their arrival. We wouldn't actually get the arrival until 2030 or 2031. Plus, there would probably be 20% price increases on $1 million trucks.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd make a motion, we approve the purchase of the 2 fire trucks. Item K.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right. Consent agenda passes. Item 7 is public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognition, and awards. Item 7A, approval of and authorization for the mayor to execute a proclamation declaring the month of October 2023 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. So I will, do you guys want to approve that first or?
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize this proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second, roll call. And then I'll read the proclamation real quick. Proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2023. Whereas October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas October 20th is National Mammography Day, and whereas breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in American women, and accounts for about 30% of all new cancer. And whereas about 1 in 8 U.S. women, about 13%, will develop invasive breast cancer over the course of her lifetime. And whereas in 2023, an estimated 297,790 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in U.S. women, along with 51,400 new cases of non-invasive breast cancer. And whereas in 2023, an estimated 2,800 new cases of an invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in men. A man's lifetime risk of breast cancer is about 1 in 833. Whereas early detection and treatment can save lives. Now, therefore, I, Deborah Wimpy, Mayor of the City of Broken Arrow, on behalf of the City Council, City staff, and residents, do hereby stand in solidarity with breast cancer survivors and thank the countless advocates, medical professionals, researchers, and caregivers who dedicated their lives to fighting for a world without breast cancer. I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Broken Arrow to be affixed this 3rd day of Oklahoma 2023, or October 2023. So, thank you all.
Thank you.
Mayor, I do have a point of order. Curtis, on that item K, I didn't see where it said that I seconded it. Does it need to be on there? I mean, I know I verbally seconded it, but
We've got it recorded.
just want to make sure we got the fire trucks on order. Okay.
We got it. Thank you, though.
All right. Item 7B is presentation of Oklahoma Floodplain Managers Association, Ronald D. Flanagan Gold Project Award for the National Rehabilitation of Stormwater Detention Facility, Park on Florence, 2nd Regional Detention Facility.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors, Mr. Spurgeon. The Park on Florence is a regional detention pond. It was constructed in the early 2000s. It is located off of Florence in between Aspen and Elm. At the time of construction, the city worked with the developer and asked if the pond could be oversized. We did this because the Leisure Park neighborhood next to it did not have detention, and we requested for assistance. And the reason they did not have detention is because that was done prior to the ordinance for detention. So the developer did work with the city and oversize the pond. Immediately after the pond began to function as a regional pond. So it did exactly as the city had requested the developer to do. Well, fast forward a little bit. This pond in about 2020, the city took ownership of this regional pond. After staff did an analysis on the pond, we discovered that the pond's effectiveness could be increased. So through some design with some consultants and with internal city staff, we have developed a plan to increase the function of this pond to make it more efficient for stormwater detention. At the same time, residents were talking with city, with council, and expressed a desire to incorporate the natural of this pond. So we went through and staff was able to add a stormwater quality features such as wetlands, a swale, hydrophilic plants, and the wet pond. Now the plants we're looking at like a cardinal red, which is a nice red plant, some blue flag irises. They're purple, but they're still called blue flags. And this is these plants, along with others that have been selected, will go through the center of the channel or center of the pond, will act as a filter and a stormwater quality that will effectively filter the water as it goes through before it releases. On September 5th, 2023, City Council awarded Phase 1 of this project, which is the reshaping of the basin and its functionality. As you've heard, there's a Phase 2. The Phase 2 is the planting. That is due to the fact of timing. Planting the flowers in these in the winter is not ideal, so we're working to make sure that they will take and get root and plant in the spring, and that is our projected time for that. As a part of these improvements, what we're also looking at doing, Mr. Schwab and I had a conversation recently. There will be about a 7-foot tall concrete box. It is a metering structure. It is what will control the outlet of the water leaving the pond. Well, as I said, it's going to be a big concrete box out there. So we've had a discussion and wanting to look ahead to help the residents out there. What is something that can be done? We discussed possibly working with Arts 302, maybe the Broken Arrow Public Schools, to come up with a contest to put a mural on there to see what can be done to make it blend in with the rest of the natural environment out there. We've discussed, working with the HOA, with some of the residents, having them on the committee to have a voice input with the rest of city staff and councilors if they desire. It's still at the very conceptual stages that we're working on this, but looking at doing it starting next year, early next year. On September 19th, 2023, the city of Broken Arrow was awarded the prestigious Ronald D. Flanagan Gold Award from the Oklahoma Floodplain Managers Association for the natural rehabilitation of the stormwater detention facility. This is the second Gold Award project that the city has received from OFMA, the Oklahoma Floodplain Managers Association. The city is honored to win this award. It speaks to the vision of council and to the implementation of the city administration. On behalf of the staff, we would like to present this award to council.
All right.
I want to say, whew, I'm so proud of this award that you all received. And I would have been there if we hadn't been in Oklahoma City. I would have totally been there because I feel like I've gotten to be a part of this project because, it started out as a complaint, as a citizen complaint. And it's turned into something that I think our city can be super proud of and some expectations that now that we have done something as a city. But the other thing is originally someone else was designing it and fell through or didn't really do what they were supposed to with it. And so the city staff took over and received an award for it. And so I just think that says so much about y'all. And I mean, just to look at these pictures doesn't even do justice. The work that has gone into this one detention pond, to do improvements, to fix some things that were wrong, but then also to look at it and say, okay, so we have this detention pond that we need to make improvements. What can we do that is going to make all our detention ponds better in the future? And Broken Arrow, I'm really proud because I think sometimes conservative communities aren't known for being green, and that's not what we're known for. But this is a very eco-friendly, this project, I'm sure that we could compete with the most liberal cities to win an eco-friendly project for this. So I'm very proud of that, and I just appreciate y'all's work so much for our citizens.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Jump pad. Do you want to take a picture with the council members?
And before you step down, I just want to say thank you to your team and the engineering construction team. I know you had a public meeting just a week or so ago.
Yes, sir.
There were several people there. I know you got peppered with questions and comments, and you all handled it well and with grace.
Yes.
Thank
So
you,
I
sir.
appreciate you all doing that to keep our citizens informed. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Picture time.
Kenny, we get in the picture with the council.
One, two, three. Got it.
John Pat.
All right. Item C is consideration, discussion, and possible appeal of Planning Commission denial of PUD 956-2023 Cypress Business Park. Kevin?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors, Mr. Spurgeon. Item 7C this evening is a request for reconsideration of the denial of a PUD for Cypress Business Park. The proposal originally was to amend the PUD to allow for a light manufacturing use in one portion of the development. The owner of the project is proposing to abrogate PUD 03 and request a new PUD to permit light manufacturing of glass products, windows and doors, in an enclosed building on a portion of the subject tract, while the remainder will be used for permitted uses in the general commercial zone, office and commercial uses primarily. This particular project goes all the way back to 1977, and obviously there's been some significant changes over the years in the area surrounding New Orleans Square. Most of the uses in that area are trending away from medical type uses and trending more towards general commercial, office, and now maker space or light manufacturing uses as well. The Planning Commission denied the project over concerns of access, traffic, noise, and the possibility of manufacturing related smells from the assembly of the window products. Okay. The vote was 2-1 in favor of denial of the project. And at this point, staff is ready for any questions, but I do believe the applicant and some of the people who were speaking against the project are in the audience this evening.
So the vote was 2-1 against this project. but
Yes.
The staff now is recommending, approval. Is that correct?
Staff's original recommendation was approval, yes.
Okay.
of
From the
project.
beginning.
Okay.
But the Planning Commission did not take your.
I'm sorry?
The staff's recommendation was approval from the beginning.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
And it
But-
still is.
Yes.
Right.
And at Planning Commission, there was one abstention and
Correct.
then one,
One wasn't
Commissioner wasn't
available.
in
One
attendance.
absent, one abstention, 2 for denial, and 1 for approval.
We do have 2 people that wish to speak in opposition, so I'm going to have them come up and speak, and then I think the applicant is here. Yes, okay. And then he can come up and answer any questions. Okay, so Mr. Zelm.
I'd like to yield.
Okay,
Council. Thank you, Mayor.
My name is Trevor Henson. I'm here, attorney with the law firm of Barrow and Grimm, but I'm here on behalf of Harry Ashen, the Harry Ashen Revocable Trust, who are the adjacent owner of this property. They showed up in opposition to the application for this. The Planning Commission, we think, properly denied the request because the intent, I believe, was to potentially create some maker space availability for citizens of Broken Arrow for this type of thing that they purportedly are asking for. But maker space, in my estimation, is very simply the usage of areas and small areas for artists and people that are makers that are using their hands to create something. What they have proposed is a implementation, I believe, of somewhat of an assembly line for creation of doors and windows, which does not fit in the area for which this would exist. As far as the arrangement, my clients are extremely concerned about parking, about semis accessing the property through the Sonic parking lot. There was a gentleman that showed up in opposition at the Planning Commission that referenced some of those things, that he believed that it would change the circumstances of the neighborhood, the general sensibility of the neighborhood, and under the rules of Broken Arrow municipal ordinances, if I can get that phrase out, for any change such as this, there are 5 things that are to be considered. I think there are only 3 that are at issue here. That's and to permit and encourage innovative land development while maintaining appropriate limitation on the character and intensity of use and assuring compatibility with adjoining and proximate properties. My client does not believe that that will occur if this exception is granted. Number 4, and I'm citing to Rule 2.6 out of the special use permit or request for special use permit, and that is encourage integrated and unified design and function of the various uses comprising the planned unit of development. Here, we don't think that there is any unified design in allowing an industrial group to enter into this space. And the third one is to encourage a more productive use of land consistent with public objectives and standards of accessibility, safety, infrastructure, and land use compatibility. Clearly, we do not believe that that works for this area to have an industrial space directly behind our medical office park. We think it will create a huge headache in us finding tenants that would like to use the space for medical purposes. Additionally, if I may continue.
One more minute.
The office space has a plat that was approved in 1977 by the city of Broken Arrow. To the extent that the plat is applicable, and it is, and this party that purchased this interest, and I've got a copy of the plat should the city want to see it and see exactly what it says. It's huge, but there are a handful of issues that arise. Primarily, under the terms of this plat, they are required to have planning commission approval before they can seek any change. They didn't get planning commission approval. I would take the position legally that the city council, by the strict definition in the terms of this plat, does not have the ability to make a decision that overrules what the planning commission does, because the party that purchased the property did not get that right when it purchased it. And very simply, they don't have the right to seek without approval of more than 1/2 of the owners. They don't have that to change the terms of the plat. Additionally, this plat was authorized by the city of Broken Arrow, and it limited the rights that exist here and can only be changed once every 10 years without the majority confirmation by the owners. The next time that can come up is 2027. Very simply, both generally, legally, they don't have the right to do what they're asking for. The planning commission denied it. We think the city council should also deny it for the purpose that they're after. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to share a copy of the plat, because I don't know that it was in the booklet that was provided to the planning commission. And I've got copies that I can give to wherever the city attorney is. I don't know. And I'm sure he would be more than interested in looking at them.
All right. Thank you.
And I'm happy to take any questions that anybody may have.
Questions?
I don't know at this point. I want to hear. if there's
Okay,
other
we'll
people.
listen to the second one and then
Okay.
have him.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Trevor Henson.
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Well, there you go.
Oh, so you're representing him.
I represented this group.
Got it.
I'm happy to let Mr. Zelm speak his piece if he would like. I think I covered the high points. And if I miss anything, Mr. Zelm, I'm sure you can hit it real quick.
Mr. Stone, do you have anything to add? Do you have anything you want to add? Okay.
I'm Robert Jelm on behalf of the Ashland Trust. I'm a little confused, having been before planning commissions in 3 other venues, maybe 4. This lot has no frontage. That means it's not a legitimate lot. So how can it have any of the amenities afforded it in CG zoning or any zoning? I had a situation like that in Tulsa. We had to make a lot of concessions to receive our objective. We won, but it was appropriate. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer, and forgive me, Mayor, Vice Mayor.
Are you suggesting nothing should be ever be able to go there since it hasn't? I'm confused.
Until
since
it's
it
a
has no-
legal lot, nothing should go there. There's no access. The definition of a lot is it has to have frontage.
Okay.
It has no frontage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right.
Can-
City Attorney, the council has the right to deal with this. I mean, the planning commission, the only one I know of is the Board of Adjustment. The council has no say in the Board of Adjustment.
That's exactly right, Counselor.
All the rest of our boards, we have the right for.
You absolutely have the review authority and can change what the planning commission has done. You have the absolute right to do that.
And it's my understanding Sonic has to, we make concessions for Sonic to be there and they have to, what feels like could be entrances onto that lot.
Mhm.
I think when we hear from the
Well-
owners, they'll be able to explain some of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So,
There's
Yeah, I would like,
multiple.
is the applicant?
They're on the back row there.
Oh, there they are. It's like-
evening.
Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak on this. My name is Josh McFarland, and I'm representative of the lot that we're talking about tonight. And I didn't know that it was such a contentious deal tonight to try to help Broken Arrow develop a site that's not developed right now, and it's kind of a burden with tall grass. And right now, what we're proposing is something that I think, even though this is not in New Orleans Square, it's close to New Orleans Square. And what we're proposing is something that also accomplishes everything that's within the New Orleans Square kind of goal sheet, if you will. It's providing density, it's providing jobs, it's providing sales tax, it's providing a lot of what you see in there. The only thing that it's not providing in that scope of it is the streetscape, because we're not right on the street there, but everything else is checking the boxes of. What we've heard is a lot of wordsmithing that keeps coming back to this industrial use, and you keep hearing it over and over and over again, and it's just not true. This is not an industrial use. This is truly a maker space that we plan on encouraging a lot of other uses, similar to if you go on date night to downtown Tulsa and you get to go to the glass blowing place to make glass, you get to go to a winemaking place, you get to go to, that's the uses that we're intending on having in here. One use is the glass company that they referenced. It is truly an assembly space, the same as if you bought furniture from IKEA and you wanted to put it together and take it to somebody's house and say, here you go, we've just assembled in a true use of a makerspace zoning. So what we've heard is just not exactly right. But what I'm presenting to you is what we truly have to do, because that's what we've worked with the staff over and over again for this last several months to accomplish what they've recommended and said, if you go forward, you need to do it in a manner that's good for the area. And staff looked at this over and over again and made it very, very difficult really for us to do it. And we agreed to still go forward and do it, because they were trying to protect the nature of the New Orleans Square that's adjacent to it. And I totally respect that, because we also own property in New Orleans Square, And we are the neighbor next door. We're Cypress Place. That's one of ours as well, the same ownership group. So we plan on in this PUD providing access through New Orleans Square, through Cypress Place to access this site. There's other access sites as well and shared accesses that allow you to get into this space. It's not landlocked, but it is something that welcome your questions, welcome your feedback. We want to be good neighbors because we are the neighbor. We have no intentions of making this a bad space. We want this to be pristine, a good business park use, a maker space that will be good for a Broken Arrow. I'm sorry that I didn't get to meet the kind of the protest of this and go through this, but I really think if they heard all of this before and we got face to face, we would have probably been in accord on what we're doing. I think they would have liked it. But the unknown is sometimes scary, and I'm here to answer questions and make it foreknown. So,
Do you have any documents? Do you have any of that of the plan with you? Are they in here?
They're on our
Can
computer
we show
screen
that,
under
like what
documents.
which
Yeah.
one is it? The conceptual site plan? Is that what it is?
Can you speak to, while they're pulling that up, I know that I've
That's
seen
what
your
it-
plans, and there are some entrances, if you will, from the medical park onto your property as well as from Sonic onto your property. Is that correct?
yes, there's a couple of aprons that enter into the
That's the term,
property.
thank
That's
you.
how we access it to mow it and all that kind of stuff. But those are there specifically so that we're not landlocked. And there's a couple that enter through the medical area. There's a couple that enter through Sonic. And then we would like to create a new one that we're encouraging everybody to utilize because, it's the same ownership group and that's our advantage of providing that access. Otherwise, it is difficult to show people where it is. It's a secondary off the main road access. So we would like to provide access signage, the directional signage, I should say, to the site that provides that through Cypress Place and behind Home Church.
So I want to talk a little bit about, I actually contacted Mr. McFarland and asked him because I watched the Planning Commission meeting and I went, and I knew kind of what you were thinking about just from past conversations you've been going through this for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I contacted you and asked, okay, can I come and just visit the facility you currently have? And I actually, because New Orleans Square, I feel like is my baby and it's also my ward. And then I invited Counselor Green because it's also, New Orleans Square is also, I'll let him claim the other half of this. So
It's our
one.
yeah, that's right.
Quadrant.
And so, yeah. And because when I listened to watched the Planning Commission meeting, I was worried about the smell. I was worried about loud manufacturing and also I've been a medical rep for many years, so I've called on those offices. So, and when I went, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, there was no smell, and I know there'll be noises from like the saw going through like little pieces of aluminum, but it wasn't anything it wasn't what I expected from what the talk was at the Planning Commission meeting. I also did talk to two of the planning commissioners and just to get more information about their opinions. And when I told them, this is what I saw, what did you think? Their thought of what it was going to be, they literally thought it was going to be glass manufactured there.
Right.
And it's so that I feel like, the makerspace, we have other things. We have Water's Edge. They do production at their facility there. And also it's going to be, am I correct? There's going to be 4 buildings and this is one of the 4.
4 buildings, and they're also restricted on internally within each of the buildings. They can only have so many square feet of makerspace within each of the buildings.
Okay.
And the rest of those buildings are going to be offices, retail. This gives us an opportunity to have showrooms, bring in retail sales tax. It provides a little bit of right now it's difficult within zoning to just go in and say we're going to be all retail or we're going to be all manufacturing or what some are thinking in their head is industrial or whatever. This provides us an opportunity to say, let's limit this to what is the best service for this neighborhood, the best use to make sure that this works. It provides all the goals, it checks all the boxes. And that's really what we designed around. We were told nothing over here will be approved if you do it this way, but this will be approved if you do it this way. And that's what we designed it for. So we took everything that we could do and we designed it for that. I really feel like each of these spaces are going to be top notch because we are the neighbor. We're the direct neighbor that's connected to this. And we have high-end, use in our other center that we can't provide an eyesore. This has to be a top-notch, first-class business use, business park, if you will.
Right.
And that's what we provided.
And I can speak to that as well because I did get to go on that tour also. And during that, there was nothing that came to my mind that said industrial in what you all are doing there. There was no smells. The sound of the saw is no louder than the saw I use in my backyard. It's essentially the same thing in an insulated building. You won't hear that on the outside. So,
And you're going to have a showroom, correct?
Yes, and we've provided more. One of the concerns was parking. I would like to touch on that because we're providing a lot more parking than is required by code and also a lot more parking that we actually need. We're providing that to help the overflow from events from New Orleans Square and Cypress Place. When we've done big events there in the past, they've needed a lot more parking than what we actually have. So we made the neighborly decision at that time, let's add as many parking spaces as we can. And so that was another design thing that we went through.
Okay. That was one of my questions was the parking on it, additional parking in there. Tell me again, my understanding of where your point of ingress and egress is at right now for this particular building. I see the Sonic there.
there's one here, one here, one here, and one here through those.
Okay, so those driveways through by Sonic and through that commercial building to the north. So you have the right of way to in point of ingress and egress through those. Is that correct?
Correct. And we also are providing a new access between Sonic and Cypress Place behind Home Church.
One right here.
Okay. Okay.
And for those that don't know, your company is the one that did where Jimmy's and Dr. Griffin's office and Summers Market and the event center, Water's Edge.
Correct.
Yep. And Home Church.
And
You
Home
did
Church.
Home Church. And Home Church is definitely for this as well. They're excited about it.
Do you own the property to the west, the lot to the west there of this application?
No, sir.
Okay, you don't own that rest of that property right there to the west.
Like underneath subject down.
Like where the square
there.
is, yeah.
No, I don't think so is the best answer.
Okay. All right. Well, it's drawn out here, and that's the property that you're on, and that's the property we're looking at tonight. That I just wondered if you own that property to the west, that big lot there to the west before you get to Juniper Avenue.
Does
for,
that
for
building?
some reason, I thought that rectangle stretched a little further to the west.
I
but-
actually thought it did, but I guess
That's
not.
what I'm talking about, where the arrow's at. You
Yeah.
don't own that property there. Is that correct?
For some reason, I thought that it did stretch out all the way
All the
there,
way.
but I have
Oh,
to look
okay.
at the.
That's what I was wondering.
But now it's drawn that way.
And
Because
it-
do
and
you
it's all
own
right.
behind
It
those
isn't not
storage, behind those storage units?
No, that's the just to the end of Water's Edge where that notch is in the building that you can kind of see.
Mhm. No, but to the west, there's those storage units that have been there forever behind the shopping center. And I was wondering if you own the land right behind the storage units, but I guess not.
I don't
That's not the way it's drawn.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I'd have
Okay.
to double check on the actual Alta survey.
I was just looking at a potential future point of ingress and egress or how that was going to develop.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
I have a question when he brought up about the plat in 1977. I mean, doesn't a new plat, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it would replace the old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our position.
Okay.
If I may.
Um,
You can ask him to come up and address the council, but he can't just come up and start that. If the council wants to hear, then they certainly can ask for more information from the applicant.
Okay. Well, if that new plat replaces the original plat, then that point is mute, right?
Yes, because there were several things that were relayed to the council that the city attorney takes issue with. We don't agree with the assessment. Again, you have plenary authority to reverse or affirm the planning commission. A new plat would replace the old. So, yeah, I mean, with those issues said, we would take issue with that.
okay.
All right. So are there any other questions of the developer? No? Oh, all right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So trying to look at
Is there anything that needed to be added from?
No, Madam Mayor.
planning? Okay.
So are we ready to?
I think so. I don't think there's any further discussion or questions.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve PUD 000956 2023 and plating be waived. Is that all I need?
I'll second that motion, but I don't. There it is.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item 7D, approval of and authorization for the mayor to execute a proclamation declaring month of October 2023 as Manufacturing Month. Jennifer Rush.
Actually going to ask Nick Duffel to come up here, Vice President of the Economic Development Corporation. We have some great partnerships with the Economic Development Corporation and the city staff, and they would like to recognize this month as Manufacturing Month.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, councilors, and Mr. Spurgeon. Just want to say quickly, thank you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation for your partnership and continued support with our economic development efforts in Broken Arrow. Manufacturing continues to be a key driver of economic development in our community. Just a quick little snippet, there's over 300 manufacturers in Broken Arrow contributing nearly $770 million in total value to our local economy. So this proclamation means a lot to us and to our manufacturers, so thank you for taking the time to do this for us.
Absolutely. And I think we're still, third in manufacturing in the state, so pretty impressive. Thank you,
Yay.
Nick. I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the city of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma is promoting Manufacturing Month in October. I'm just going to keep saying Oklahoma in October of 2023. And whereas Manufacturing Month was developed to improve public perception of manufacturing and is supported by thousands of manufacturers as they host students, teachers, parents, job seekers, and other local community members at open houses designed to showcase modern manufacturing technology and careers nationwide. And whereas it is a national celebration of modern manufacturing designed to inspire the next generation on how they can make a difference through manufacturing and give guidance on how to take the first steps in starting a career in modern manufacturing, effectively communicate that manufacturers need the next generation, show students, parents, and educators the opportunity, creativity, possibility, and accomplishment that come with a career in manufacturing. And whereas the city of Broken Arrow ranks third in the state of Oklahoma for manufacturing, and whereas more than 300 local manufacturers operate within the city of Broken Arrow, and whereas modern advanced manufacturing relies on clean, well-lit, and climate-controlled environments, provides competitive benefits to every employee, including healthcare and retirement plans, and thereby makes manufacturing a worthwhile career choice for all residents. And whereas the city of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma supports and joins in this national and state effort to help America's manufacturers do what they do best, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Deborah Webby, Mayor of the City of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, on behalf of the Broken Arrow City Council and residents, do hereby proclaim October of 2023 as Manufacturing Month.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. We do that.
Second.
Johnny seconded
I
it.
second
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get you in trouble there.
Thank you.
Mayor, can we get a picture with the council
sure.
and Nick and Jennifer, please?
Absolutely.
Now I want to know what we can do to get to number 2.
More manufacturing.
Get a big university.
Right.
Nick, tell us how to get to number 2.
We're trying. I'll tell you that.
Like you like. 1, 2, 3. Very good.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, item 8 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics. There are none. Item 9A is consideration, discussion, and possible approval regarding PT 20-115, conditional final plat for estates at Lynn Lane. Ken.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor, City Councilors, Mr. Spurgeon. This item was continued from your meeting of a couple of weeks ago so that we'd have the opportunity to notify the surrounding residents. This is a conditional request to approve a conditional final plat for the estates at Lynn Lane, blocks 1 through 6. The item was considered by the City Council on September 21st, 2021, but was continued due to engineering plans being complete. The engineering plans were accepted by staff with no exceptions taken on October 26th of 2022. The Army Corps of Engineers made a determination of whether the property is within a jurisdictional wetland, and per the determination of March 17th, the site has 0.043 acres of jurisdictional open water, 0.039 acres of jurisdictional emergent wetland, and 3.913 acres of non-jurisdictional wetland, a stock pond. Overflow structure and outlet flow structures and overflow structures were relocated outside the areas designated as jurisdictional wetlands. Therefore, a 404 permit from the Corps of Engineers was determined to not be required. Okay. Maintenance of the proposed stormwater facility in Reserve C is the responsibility of the property owner. The responsible party for the facility, criteria for maintenance, and language pertaining to the failure or to maintain the property are addressed in Section 2 of the covenants of the plat. The conditional final plat was placed on the agenda for September 19th. Staff found that when PUD 315 was approved, City Council also requested that surrounding property owners be notified when the plat moved forward. This item was continued at the September 19th meeting so that staff could properly notice the item. That took place immediately. Notices were sent out on September 19th and notifying the surrounding property owners of the conditional final plat being reviewed by the City Council on October 3rd. Staff's recommendation is to approve the conditional final plat for the estates at Lynn Lane per the Planning Commission and staff recommendations. And we're here for any questions.
Are there any questions?
I had a couple questions. I just want to make sure that I got from a property owner. And that one of the questions was about the fencing on, this is the property owners of the pond that we've talked to, but there's supposed to be fencing put up on the north side of the pond. Is that going to be done by the developer or?
I would ask that their representative come and address that on their behalf.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Mr. Spurgeon, Eric Enyart with Tanner Consulting, 5323 South Lewis Avenue, Tulsa. We put this plat together. We did the engineering. Yes, that did come up in one of the previous meetings. We did agree to put up a fence, and that is actually in the covenants of the plat.
Okay. And let me see. And the only other question they asked me was about just the maintenance of the pond. And I know that will end up with the HOA. And I think their concern is what if, and I mean, I don't even know how you answer this because it's a what if. So, but if the HOA, I mean, what will be put in the covenants maybe to make sure the HOA maintains the pond in the manner that kind of was the whole point of it being built the way it was.
Yes. In the covenants of the plat, the reserve area that contains the pond does have language that requires maintenance by the HOA. It also has language that if they fail to do so, the city can come in, have a contractor do the maintenance or repairs, and that is billed back to the property owners.
Okay.
And not only that, there is easement dedication language that says the same thing. So we've
Okay.
got double coverage on the maintenance.
All right. I really appreciate all the work y'all have done to work with these property owners because I know it's been a situation where the work needed to happen with them, but the developers have done they've really, I mean, everything that they've asked for, they've come in and actually done. So they seem pretty happy, which is a huge
Shift from
and
where we
I mean, it
were.
really is.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was a very emotionally charged situation. And so I do appreciate all the work by our staff as well as you and the developer. So
Thank you to staff for working with us through the process.
Yeah.
And if I may, I would echo your comments, Vice Mayor. The owner really stepped up here, came to meetings with them, and Tanner Consulting did a great job of working with them. Brian Green as a contractor did a great job as well, so I appreciate that. I would like to work with them and potentially get a 2 or 3 page summary with pictures of kind of an operations manual to turn over to the HOA. I think that would be a good idea. It's not in their contract and it's not in our PUD, but I think something of this nature, we probably ought to start doing that. So I will work with them and see if we can do something of that nature.
that sounds like something, since we're working with different kinds of detention, might be good for a lot.
Moving forward, correct.
Yeah. And I've heard Brian Green's name before too, that saying good things about him, whoever he is. So, yay, Brian. So, all right.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Estates of Lynn Lane, blocks 1 through 6.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 9B, consideration, discussion, and possible approval and direction to publish a legal notice of annexation for the voluntary annexation of approximately 45.85 acres located at the southeast corner of Midway Road and Houston Street.
Good evening once again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and councilors, and Mr. Spurgeon. This is a request to publish a legal notice of annexation for and this is a voluntary annexation for approximately 46 acres located in the southwest quarter of Midway Road and Houston Street in well, soon to be within the city of Broken Arrow, just outside the city limits in Wagner County. This is, again, I want to make it clear, a voluntary request to do this, and staff is recommending that you approve this and move forward with this annexation.
So I did have a question on this one. Where does it touch city lines? Because so 81st there is county, and I thought Midway at that intersection was county.
On the
And there's a
north,
state law that you have to touch city limits to be
look
able
at
to
you, you're
annex.
getting very good at this. If you weren't the mayor, I'd hire you. Yes, we are on the north side, but there is a small little lot that's not, but we are on the north side. So the right of way is adjacent and contiguous. That's the word that they use in the state statute. So that would be on the north and east side. And then at Midway, we actually reach out as well. So we are, once we annex the right of way of Houston or 81st Street, it is contiguous. And I would like to add, I have met with the Wagner County engineer, and she said that the commissioners are in support of this.
I was pleased to see this. You know, seeing so much development. Years ago, it was in the city of Broken Arrow when it was developed. Now it's within our fence line, and most of the developments that we see are not anywhere to the standards of the city of Broken Arrow and not in the city of Broken Arrow. And that makes it difficult for the fire department, police department, you know, for everyone. So I was excited to see this. Used to, we'd go out and annex what we could touch and what we could do. But to come in voluntarily, I was really pleased with that.
And Mayor, if I may add, I am working with the commissioner that they actually had something scheduled about paving the road. I'm asking that they will still pave it before we take it in, and then we would take over maintenance from there.
My neighborhood would love that.
Well, that was my question about the public improvements. Is there any concerns that all of a sudden we're going to be responsible for any public improvements?
That's why if they will pave it, that'll give us a lot more life because we don't have anything in our plans to improve it at this point in time. We'll look at it with the next bond package, but you know, there's other needs as well.
Well, and there's a housing addition right across the street from that's about to go in as well.
Right.
It's going to put more cars on that really horrible.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is a half mile. Is that correct, Kevin? I think it's just a half mile. Quarter.
I think there was only 3 houses on it presently, isn't there?
I don't know that.
It's just that her house is on there, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
But maybe not.
Okay.
There's not a big development on it.
Okay.
Excuse me. Make a motion, we approve request.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right. Item C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of and authorization to execute amendment number 1 to agreement for professional consulting services. Kenny.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors, City Manager. This item has actually been with us for a little while. What I would like to do is ask that we table it until after we do 9F. I think after we go through the discussion and consideration of 9F, the importance of this would actually merit and have more value and maybe add some clarification. So yeah, I would ask to be tabled for right now.
And you're for sure going to bring it back here in a little bit, right?
Yes, sir. I will be back.
By
I'll make
law,
a
he
motion to
has
table.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to table. Roll call. Item 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of amended resolution number 1548, a resolution declaring the intent to consider approval of a project and creation of a tax increment district under the Local Development Act.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. This is pretty much exactly the same as last meeting we saw. 1548 came, but there was one issue in the resolution that we wanted to clear up to make sure it was very clear and transparent. This is only a sales tax TIF. It is not an ad valorem. So 1548, the amended resolution, just takes out that language. Last meeting, the Vice Mayor agreed to chair the thing, so we can continue with that.
Okay.
This is just amending it to take out the ad valorem part.
Do you have any discussion or questions?
I'll move to approve the amended resolution number 1548.
I'll second that motion.
You have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9E, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the nomination and appointment of a city councillor to the Visit Broken Arrow Board for a term expiring September 30th. Jennifer Rush.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager. Last council meeting, we brought several renewals and new members for the Visit Broken Arrow Board. I wouldn't like to say that we forgot about Councilor Ford. However, Councilor Ford had just joined on the board for a very short time. She took over for former Councilor Scott Udi in April. And so this item is before you to see who you would like to nominate and consider for the council position on the Visit Broken Arrow Board.
Now, you've just gotten started. If you want to continue on, I would say that
I would
be-
love to continue on. Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy the meetings. It's a good group. A lot of things going on.
I'll make a motion that Counselor Ford continue as our appointment.
You have a motion? Do you have a
I'll
second?
second that motion.
Roll call.
You all might be getting busy.
I know.
Busier.
I know. Excited.
Mhm.
I'm voting for myself. Is that weird?
It'd be weird if you didn't vote for yourself.
All right. Item 9F, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute an economic development agreement by and among Sunset at Broken Arrow LLC and the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority and the City of Broken Arrow. Jennifer Rush. Thank you.
I believe the city manager would like to make some comments before I begin.
Sure. If I may, Mayor, members of council, good evening. I do have some opening comments, and as I mentioned to all of you, we have a presentation that we would like to give to the governing body this evening with regard to the economic development agreement that's before you. You've heard me say this for a little over 8 years now, that the city's number one role as it relates to economic development really, and you saw this earlier this evening, is really to create and maintain an environment that promotes private investment. I mean, the council members understand, as well as our EDC chamber, is that the job growth in your community, the prosperity in your community comes from partnerships with the private sector. Keeping with that responsibility, the administration is pleased to present to the council an agreement for what I consider to be a major economic development opportunity in the southeast part of a committee, which means should council enter this agreement, it's going to be a benefit to the entire community. In summary, before the council for your consideration is an agreement creating another public-private partnership between the city and the entity known as Sunset at Broken Arrow LLC to bring to our community a 12,500 seat capacity outdoor amphitheater that will provide a wide array of live musical entertainment events within our city. The proposed site for the venue is our events park or land adjoining the park. And as the council members know, as we've talked about in previous meetings, we are negotiating for the acquisition of that land at this time. Over the last 2.5 months, city officials have spent considerable amount of time and effort working with the representatives from Sunset at BA LLC on the specific details of an agreement that's before you this evening. The said agreement, which is very detailed, outlines the terms of the agreement, the benchmarks, and the deliverables required of each party. At this time, I'd like to ask the council's permission to have several individuals involved with the project to come forward and make a presentation or two with regard to where we are with the project. And this includes a representative from the developer to be able to talk about the private side of this partnership and then give the council members an opportunity to ask any additional questions you may have. And if that's fine, Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer Rush. Okay.
Perfect. So good evening again. I'm excited to be before you for this opportunity. That is really a transformational economic opportunity for Broken Arrow. Although there's been many city staff that have worked on this project over the last 2.5 months, I would say there's only probably one other person in this room that's so well versed in this project, and that would be the city manager. And so the city manager, we had quite a few economic development projects that have approached us within the last couple months. And so over the past couple months, I've enjoyed being in economic development meetings with him, learning from him. And I just want to say I appreciate your leadership, guidance, and support on this project. because it was definitely an economic journey together. And so I really thank you. And I also want to point out and thank every single counselor that has spent time in one-on-one meetings. This is not necessarily, this has been something that has been presented and discussed. And a lot of the public doesn't realize that you all are volunteers, that you do this work for free, like Commerce likes to say. And so you spend a lot of your time meeting with staff and talking about projects and really having a passion for Broken Arrow. So I just want to say thank you to you guys as well. And quickly, originally I'd written down a whole bunch of names that were involved in this project. And we talked about, we don't need like an Academy nomination speech to thank everybody, but I just really want to, for public record, thank every department that has been instrumental in getting us to this point, because there's been several departments that have worked on this project, and I think that's important to note. So the city manager's office, the legal department, engineering and construction, finance, police and fire, community development, parks, IT, the clerk's office, the assistant city managers, Norm Stevens and Kenny Schwab, and you guys get double exclamation marks for helping with this project. And then also Nate Ellis, who I saw spoke in the door. We spent countless of hours going back and forth with this economic development agreement and negotiations. So as you can see, there's several people that have been involved in this project. And so I just want to thank them, because it truly takes a village, and a project of this magnitude takes a lot of people to bring in their expertise. So real quickly, I just want to include some brief background on how we came here and where this project came from. So I first spoke to Mr. Robert Mudd a couple years ago, and he'll be up here to present. And we just kind of stayed connected about certain projects and things that could happen in Broken Arrow at some point. Notes live, and I'll refer to them going forward as Sunset of Broken Arrow, because that's how they're referred to in the agreement. They approached Broken Arrow in May of this year with a proposal for 4,500 to 8,000 seat outdoor amphitheater. So there's a story behind that as well as this project has grown. So I spent time with Mr. Spurgeon and Norm Stevens, and we thought about where is a good location for this, because obviously, there's things that go noise and traffic and those type of things that we see. Mr. Spurgeon, he suggested, hey, let's go look over at the events park. And so we started investigating that. It was actually perfect, because I started digging up a lot of public records and a lot of proposals and master plans for the events park. And the 2011 master plan for the events park always included an amphitheater at that park. And there were several public meetings and several public comment as well. So we had the opportunity, the city manager and Norm Stevens and I, we had the opportunity to conduct a site visit with the Notes founder and CEO, J.W. Roth, and his team around the events park. Over the next few months, the company spent time evaluating their potential site locations, and the city, through our partners at the EDC, the Economic Development Corporation, spent time completing due diligence. I want to thank Jennifer Conway and Nick Duffel and their team. They completed due diligence looking at the company, which included interviewing other cities and economic organizations in which Notes has completed other projects. They reviewed economic impact analysis. And so Mr. Mudd will come up and speak here in a little bit, and I've had a sneak peek at his presentation. So he'll talk to you more about his company and other existing venues and the projects that they have completed. As Sunset continued their research into the Broken Arrow market, the footprint of the amphitheater began to grow. And so it started out at 4,500 to 8,000 seats. And as they continued the research, they realized that the regional market around Broken Arrow could support what is now considered before you a 12,500 seat amphitheater. So let's talk about numbers, and they're big numbers, and these are the numbers that I know people are interested. So Notes will provide a minimum of a $71 million investment into the project. The project is projected to have a total annual economic impact of over $211 million to Broken Arrow. That's annually, so direct and indirect. The project will employ 741 jobs during the construction period, and upon completion, it will provide 86 direct full-time positions with annual payroll of approximately $3.5 million. It will support an additional 154 indirect jobs with an annual payroll of $4 million. The projected capital investment is expected to generate over $900,000 in new ad valorem, and as we discussed, the ad valorem would not be included in this TIF, so that's money benefiting Wagner County, the Wagner County Health Department, Broken Arrow Public Schools, Tulsa Tech, and the city. The project further anticipates the generation of approximately 85.5 million in annual taxable sales. So very significant, and that is with ticket, food, and beverage. According to the agreement before you this evening, construction is projected to be completed by December 31st, 2025. Then beginning a full year after that completion, the amphitheater guarantees a minimum of 45 shows per year. Right now, they're projecting about 50, 55, 60, and I'll let Bob speak about that. So where's the public-private partnership piece, as Mr. Spurgeon mentioned? In order to provide the best experience for those visiting, Sunset has requested the city to provide 3,360 parking spaces. Also, enhanced egress, ingress to ensure traffic moves quickly. We want a good experience. We want people to want to come back again and not get stuck in traffic on their way out. Our engineers estimate improvements to be 18 million to 25 million. And the improvements will also strongly enhance the total usage of the events park as well. So Kenny will come up after Mr. Mudd to discuss more details as far as the infrastructure improvements. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Robert Mudd. He's Senior VP of Real Estate Development for Notes Live. He's been an absolute wonderful partner to work with. Sometimes in economic development, you're not always blessed with who wants to do a project, but he's been always available by phone and email, weekends, evenings. And actually yesterday I looked in my phone and he made my favorites list. So he's right next to my husband on my favorites list. So we've considerable time speaking about this project, and I appreciate his availability. So he's going to provide a presentation, and then Kenny will talk about infrastructure, and I'll would like to come back up to talk about next steps.
All right. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and Mr. Spurgeon, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm really grateful for it. I'll start by saying, and I'll touch on it again before I'm done, I've worked all over the United States, from medium-sized to large-scale hospitality and entertainment venues with municipalities. And there are nice people everywhere, and there's sometimes competent people. And you guys are very fortunate and blessed to have an amazing group of people, from civil engineering to public works to economic development to legal, and led by your city manager and Jennifer. It's just been a pleasure beyond enjoying working with them, having a high degree of competency, which gives us a lot of confidence in coming to Broken Arrow with our project. I'm going to give you a quick overview of Notes Live. Notes Live is the holding company. We are based out of Colorado Springs. Our origins go back to both restaurants, entertainment, and now large-scale amphitheaters back to 2015. And we've put together an exceptional team, and you're going to start seeing sunsets kind of scatter across the United States over the next 10 years pretty quickly. Give a quick overview of that. We have a very experienced team. We've got folks from that have come from the largest promoters and venue management companies in the United States that we've put into our executive team, deep industry experience. We have very strong financial health. One of our strengths is that the primary leadership comes from a long history of private equity and has a strong track record of succeeding. We have a strong asset base. You will see in our financials that we are very cautious on our debt. We have developed capacities to raise capital that bring great strength over the long haul in terms of how we can operate our business. We are going very strategically in the way that we expand our markets. This corridor of Broken Arrow and going back into Oklahoma City as well is an underserved market. And if you look at the trends that are happening in hospitality today, we are sitting in a perfect location to serve not only the Tulsa MSA, but we would anticipate, as I'll share in a moment, a significant amount of license plates from out of state coming in to see the type of talent that we're going to bring into this location. We have identified the South and Southeast United States as significant growth areas, and Oklahoma City and Broken Arrow are target markets, which is why we're here today. This is a picture of our team. We've got folks that actually have deep roots here that have long been on our team. Gary Tedder grew up in Tulsa, went to school here. His son Ryan Tedder is the lead singer of One Republic, and they're from just down the street. So we've got some deep roots in this region as well.
Our consultant team is world-class. Whenever you put together a large venue like this, which we are not putting together what you'll hear in the industry, sheds. That's not who we are. You will see anywhere we go that we are going to provide a world-class hospitality experience. And one of the other things that you're going to see is fire. We just believe that some good music and a fireplace tends to lower the rancor that we live in today. And we've incorporated that into everything that you've done. If you come to Colorado Springs, we have 92 fire pit suites being constructed in that location. We will have substantially more here. The location that I just opened up in my backyard in Gainesville, Georgia, which hosted Ronnie Millsap last weekend, has fire at every corner. And we gather around and we create community as a primary focus of our hospitality engagements. And it's done because we've got a great team. We are good at the hospitality, but you've got to have great architects, great traffic management, and great sound and acoustics. And it is important not just from the hospitality experience that our customers, when they come to an event, experience, but also from the neighbors. I love the site that we're located, and all of the sites that we are all around the United States, from Murfreesboro to Gainesville to Colorado Springs to Oklahoma City and others to be announced soon. This is the best suited site for an outdoor amphitheater that we have, in my view, from two perspectives. One, its location the proximity to getting in and out. And the second is the fact that it's located not close significantly to residential zones. So it's already a park that existed that has a history of events in it. Our team includes BCA Studios and a sub-team of that have worked on some of the biggest hospitality projects around the world. They've already been here to see the site and are in the process of laying that out. Kimley Horn, there are two sides to that. One is the civil engineering side. We have also been working with Tanner Consulting on the civil engineering side. That is a local civil engineering firm. But Kimley also has a traffic and parking engineering that is world-class. They do the Super Bowl. They've done our traffic and engineering in Colorado Springs. They've done the World Series. They're the best to partner with. And then we bring in acousticians that don't just help make sure that we have the best environment to listen to live music, but that we are considerate of the neighbors around us, that we create an architectural approach that minimizes the impact in any negative nature to any neighborhoods that would be in the proximity of this venue. We have partnered in Colorado Springs with the Anschutz Group, AEG, as you may have heard it. They are the largest venue manager in the world. They, along with Live Nation, are two of the largest programmers. We have not contracted with them here yet, but it will likely be a partner of that nature that would be a partner in the location here in Broken Arrow. And they are responsible through their ticketing agency of selling nearly 50% of the entertainment tickets worldwide. So not only are we bringing our unique approach to, which is new and fresh to this space, but we have long-term partners that have proven themselves to manage this with excellence over time. We have a number of different concepts that you can go visit today. We have Bourbon Brothers Smokehouse and Tavern. Those are operating in Colorado and Georgia today. It is a place that we built for our families. I don't know any other way to say it. It's got great food. It's got a great environment. It's got fireplaces and a nice, comfortable place if you wanted to have a beer in the evening. We have the Boot Barn Halls, which are intimate boutique music venues, seated 500 to 600 folks. We do 2 to 3 concerts in those venues every week, and it also serves these local communities as a place for businesses to hold conferences and do community events as well. The marquee as we go forward are our Sunset Amphitheaters. Our marquee that is under construction today is in northern Colorado Springs. It got the name of the Sunset because it sits at the base of Pikes Peak, America's mountain, over its left shoulder, and it has the Air Force Academy over its right. It is located at the exit for the northern entrance exit of the U.S. Air Force Academy. And so we called it the Sunset because we're going to fire up the music about the time the sun sets over Pikes Peak in the evening. And it has 92 fire pit suites. And in the back of it is the Roth Seafood and Chop House, which is, you can see pictured in the lower right-hand corner, which is a hospitality and an event facility that also hosts Brohan's Bar and Roth Seafood and Chop House. It is going to be what has been described in Rolling Stone magazine and others, the biggest new venue in music in the coming years. From a routing perspective, we have a bunch of criteria. But primary to that criteria is looking at underserved markets that have at least 1 million people in their metropolitan service area. And what you will see with these acts that these promoters route is they may play Red Rocks on a Thursday or Friday night, come into Fiddler's Green, which is in South Denver, and then come into what will be the Sunset to play. So they'll hit 3 locations. Coming out of Colorado Springs, the next location with an asset of an outdoor amphitheater of this nature is going to be Phoenix, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or Kansas City. And in the midst of that, which is the strategy that we're undertaking, are significant markets. What you will find is that since COVID, hospitality, live entertainment, and experiences are 1, 2, 3 in the growth of industry in the United States. And we intend to serve that by bringing world-class venues to metropolitan areas like Broken Arrow to serve the broader Tulsa market, also Missouri and the Panhandle and other areas where you'll see nearly 25% of the license plates coming into the shows and spending their dollars in Broken Arrow from out of state. So our approach is to develop strong relationships with local leaders. There are a lot of folks that we could do business with. But this is an asset of $70 million that our company is investing. And if we don't feel strongly that we've got a relationship with the local community that sees it as an asset for their community and not just another dot on the map that is going to be contended against, then we're not going to go there. And so the longstanding discussions that have been taking place with Broken Arrow has brought us back here time and time again until ultimately it became clear that this is the best location for us in this region of Oklahoma. We always make an effort to use local banks with the assumption that we get the approval to move forward, which I'm hopeful for. You will see us moving very quickly to establish local banking relationships, and you will see advertising and our presence of our leadership team here almost immediately. The final piece of that is I just want to say again, Broken Arrow has demonstrated exceptional support and collaboration. What would typically take, where we really initiated this effort in June with a municipality 6 months to a year, we had a very aggressive schedule, and Michael said, let's go do this and see if it makes sense for both of us. And we both, as they say in Kentucky, put our foot into it. And we stand here today with what I believe to be a very solid plan moving forward. So this project will be $12,500. You might ask why we arrived on that. When you begin to look at the nature of the acts that we have confirmed that we can route through here, through these routed shows, and the economic dynamics of that and the likelihood that it can be supported by population, we are going to be routing the acts that are going to be coming out of the likes of the Toyota Music Factory in Dallas and the amphitheaters that I've discussed, like Red Rocks in Colorado Springs. And so getting into that 12 to 12,500 allows us to route the folks that you listen to on the radio through Broken Arrow on a consistent basis. We are guaranteeing 45 shows a year. We think it will be more in the neighborhood of 55 to 60. We have a much longer touring season here in Oklahoma than we do in Colorado Springs. And we've been able to get that guarantee from our promoting partners there. It can also be, we have a couple of other relationships that we've worked to establish. The college that's just across the street, we've met with them on a number of occasions. In fact, we met with them today to talk about some of the nature of the relationships and actually the potential of their hospitality school, developing talent that we would need to serve what is going to be a vibrant place of employment. I have met individually with each of the Wagner County commissioners and talked through all the questions that they've had and want to make sure that if there are questions or concerns or ideas that we get those on the table, early in the process. This is a general rendering of what it would look like. And one of the things that's critical with these amphitheaters is that you can have capacity for parking that is usable for other
purposes. Just building a large parking lot, which for a 12,000 person amphitheater, you need about 3,300 to 3,400 parking spots for 55 uses a year, makes it unviable. But given the nature of the use in the park and the fact that the city will be able to use this the other 310 days a year or whatever it is, makes this very attractive. In addition to that, its proximity to the parkway and our ability to direct what is the high frequency sounds down the parkway and away from residential units, we believe sets this up well to not be a nuisance to the local community, which is often the concerns. Setting all that aside, we will not complete a project where we can't guarantee ourselves that it can handle the traffic safely, and that we can't be good neighbors to the people that are around us. And hence, why we have Kimley Horn and LSTN as consultants that will be with us all along the way as we move forward here. So with that, I will pause, and if there's no more further, or if there's any questions, be happy to field those questions.
No question, but it's been a pleasure working with you. And I mean, this is just so exciting. It's an economic transformation for our city. And it's just so exciting to think about what this could be. And it seems like and Jennifer, sorry, mentioned the departments that have worked on this. And obviously you've been right there with them all along the way. It's like every single department in our city has been involved in this. And I know that you guys have worked tirelessly for, like you said, 2.5 months. I don't know that like something this magnitude has come together so smoothly. It just is it's just really neat. And it's been a pleasure watching this unfold. So thank you, sir.
I appreciate that. And the collaboration that's taking place, some of your folks are here today. We're talking about, which GC should we use? Should we use the same general contractors? What about the civil engineering firms? We want to put together a team that maximizes the potential of not just what you're creating on the events park, but having it integrated into, a world-class entertainment facility.
Absolutely.
And they've been a pleasure to work with.
And then we met with, the new president of NSU, and his vision for this is so exciting as well. He's thrilled about this project. So
one of the things that we talked about today, you will see in Colorado Springs and Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where we've got the wheels in motion on the development that's a little bit ahead of this, is there will be a lot of development around that. And they were so excited about that because one of the constraints that the college expressed to us is a lack of gas stations, a lack of places in close proximity to go get something to eat. That's going to change.
Absolutely.
Based on what we've seen.
I feel like the hardest thing for this project for me was to keep it a secret for so long, because we were just so excited. And I mean, I know you've bragged on our city, which they deserve it because they do a great job, but I just felt at ease, even our very first meeting with you all, that you had your stuff together, like your ducks in a row. And that, as a counselor, definitely was easier to jump on board for sure. So as I said earlier, my parents live in that neighborhood. So I had a lot of questions because I didn't want my Sunday dinners to turn out to be not so fun. So anyway, I'm really excited.
Yeah. And I'm kind of glad that I kept bugging Jennifer to keep contacting you guys from the very beginning. I hear they're still interested. Can you reach out again and see what they're thinking? So anyone else have any?
Yeah, I would just comment too, I'm extremely excited. As somebody mentioned, the amphitheater theme was started from this property, was first purchased and part of it donated by the Anderson family who own that farm there. And so to get this amphitheater of this magnitude, really pleased with. Plus, I think with the purchase of the land, I'm really excited about that because that still then would give us continue using more of our parkland for a park,
And for other festivals that might
Exactly.
take
Yeah,
place.
in case other big places and, for the kids to run around in the park itself. So by moving it north, I'm just really excited about it doing that.
And keeping the nature of the environment around that pond or that lake that's located there and the additional parking and what it can benefit to the, whether it's the Balloon Festival or the Scottish Festival, I think it just has a lot of potential to expand over time.
Exactly, right.
And if I'm not mistaken, is this the largest P3?
Yes. Probably by double.
Public-private partnership.
Just so the council knows, I spoke to the organizer of Scott Fest yesterday and updated them on the project, and the fact that we'll have one of the measurables or the deliverables is construction schedules should council approve in the next couple of months to determine how that would play into the potential construction for next year's event. Also spoke to Kurt Klein with but Camp Bandage, and they're actually going earlier than they normally do. So I don't anticipate there being any issues with them being able to. And if he was very cooperative, that we needed to do somewhere else as a result of this. So obviously the reaction and support was very positive.
And I want to say too, I appreciate you reaching out to Camp Bandage and Scottish Fish and Gates Way, because we want them to stay in our city, of course, and be a great partner with this too. And I talked to Kurt today too, and he's really excited, but he appreciated the phone call. Absolutely.
Well, at this time, if there are no other questions, I would like to bring Kenny Schwab up to talk more specifically about the public portion of this project. Council has heard this in terms of the improvements and the potential costs. I think it's important that we also let the public hear what those are, because they are outlined in the agreement specifically. So I'd like for him to talk about that to the governing body.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, absolutely. This is very exciting. Actually, if you could go back to slide maybe 13. Yeah, that 13, that's actually a good one. So let me quickly talk about certain items that are, as Mr. Spurgeon said, part of the public improvements, what we're taking care of. First and foremost, we have made an offer on the 41 acres to the north. So in this picture, it's right where the amphitheater is shown. It's west of the school. North is to the left in, well, it might be, you're right, my left. That's where the amphitheater is going. That 41 acre is privately owned. It was always intended as part of the events part. As we move forward, we thought about purchasing it. We have an offer already on the table to the individual. We've met with them, negotiating it. I do expect a counter offer pretty soon. So I just wanted to make sure that that is in, that ball's rolling. Now, with respect to the public improvements, we've got on-site improvements and off-site. You can see, this is a great picture. The light shaded area is where the events park is. You can kind of see Gary Street that runs into the school, but you can see the extension of internal street network. We've got new roads. We also have to widen some of the roads to make sure that we have that traffic management plan that Mr. or Bob talked about. Make sure that we get them in, get them out. So we've got a loop around. There's parking that he talked about. There'll be stormwater, drainage, detention, whether it's underground or on site. We'll have to address that. There'll be a water loop. We got to extend all the water line in the events park is owned by the city of Broken Arrow, but we purchase with meters through rural water. So we can, if we purchase this, we can extend the water line. We'll have to extend sanitary sewer. So all those public improvements on site. A couple other things I want to talk about. I like it. This one actually shows it. You see the connection from up on the screen here is where the Challenger Sports Complex is. You see the parking lot. You see the road crossing through the trees and tying into the loop road. Rocky's building that. He's already got the bridge. He's already got his team scheduled. They've already cleared through there, and we have got it cleared through the core. We've got the permit to cross the creek, the 404 permit. So we will be constructing that probably about 4 months. He's already started on it. We figure by first of the year, that connection will be done. That's important as we move forward in construction on all of this to make sure that that connection's in, because there's a school in there. They still got to be able to access. Another potential ingress egress is the next item that we tabled earlier, 9C. We have a road going from Gary, and this will be up on the very east of the school, and it'll cross the railroad and tie into Washington or 91st. We've talked about this before, the ODOT, Oklahoma Department of Transportation, at Highway 51 and 91st Street at that point. They have a signal plan for that realignment of the intersection. They should bid that next spring. March is the latest I've heard. And our proposed improvements will tie into that. So we've been working with ODOT. We've been working with the railroad. So those improvements are already underway and planned. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows that, because it sounds like, well, y'all have been talking about this forever then. And
I'm
we
going
were,
to, yes.
okay,
I was going to address that on 9C after this,
Okay.
so you're spot on. So those are some of the off-site, we have an entryway down in New Orleans. We got to make sure that it's wide enough to get traffic in and out and get it flowing. There will be improvements along New Orleans. And talking to engineering, they're actually going to have a future lane that would head back to the west towards NSU and tie into where the, that would be the southbound ramp. I had to think about that in my head. Southbound ramp ties into New Orleans. So we actually want to widen all the way to the Vince Park there. But we also have a contingency plan. What happens if that takes too long? There's a center turn lane. We can restripe and still make that more effective and more efficient. So that's already underway. And one of the other things that we talked about and worked with Scott Carr's team is what about fiber? What about Cox? What about Windstream? What about PSO? ONG? Is all the other private utilities there? We have some challenges with Windstream or Cox, and so he's already working on that. So all of those improvements are already in process. We thought about, and I just want to thank engineering, specifically Charlie Bright. He did a whole lot of heavy lifting on this to figure out, is this a 15 million, a 25 million, a 30 million? He worked tirelessly on that. Zach Smith worked alongside with him on that out of engineering. Of course, finance always with Cindy Arnold and Tom Cook. And like I said, IT, Scott Carr and Kimber Putman did a lot of work on this to figure out what's there and what's not. And Matt Hendren and Parks as well. And honestly, legal. They did a lot too, Danny and Trevor. So, I mean, we could stand up here and thank everybody, but those people did a whole lot of work constantly on it. So that pretty well covers the city aspect. And like I said, there's already some contracts in place. I'll talk on those. Those are the ones that we tabled, and we can talk about those after this. So I believe I turn it back over to Jennifer.
Jennifer, just one point is that we have to have a second form of ingress and egress. Until
okay.
that road is completed, talk about what the plan is. Kenny.
Okay, excellent. So to handle almost 2,400 vehicles, you need a plan of attack. We're going to widen the street into the park, the main street into the park, to handle a little bit more flow, but we need more ingress and egress, as Mr. Spurgeon said. So right now, Rocky's connection from the Challenger Sports Complex into the park, that can be another form of ingress and egress because it goes out on the eastern side of the park. But we still have Gary Street. We've got the gate there that we opened up and go through the industrial park and go out on 219th. So by January, we'll actually have three. And then hopefully on the next item, when I come back and talk about that, you'll see that there's a potential to have a really good ingress and egress.
Any questions of the council members regarding public infrastructure?
I will like to add partnerships. We talk about that all the time. Broken Arrow is unlike any other community I've ever worked with. We have already talked to OTA. We have already talked to ODOT. We have talked to Rural Water 4. We have talked to Wagner County, both commissioners and the county engineer. We know their schedule of their improvements on New Orleans. They've already, so remember we did New Orleans right in front of the Vince Park. Wagner County has already advertised and it's gone to ODOT for award. The project's already been awarded to pick up at 215th and go all the way to Oneida Road. That project should start early 2024, so it'll be done before this is over. So that will be complete.
Okay.
All right.
Can
Thank
we
you.
talk to the school district?
Yes.
Right.
We did.
We did that.
I've spoken to the superintendent as well as the president of the board, and I communicated with them yesterday to let them know council is considering this, and obviously they want to be kept abreast of things that are going on because they have the school there.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is, if thinking positively, when the bonds pass in November, the pod concept is actually there could be construction at the school there. I've learned.
Yes.
Also, with so many events that happen at the school, especially like parent-teacher conferences in the evening. So having that schedule is going to be very important so they can schedule their meetings with teachers. So really, it's logistical things that are most important to them right now.
And to that point, we have talked to Rosalind. She's over the transportation, so she's aware of it. And just chiming in what he said, we are trying to meet with the principal of the school just so they don't get shocked by the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny.
Okay, so you guys heard a lot this evening, a lot of exciting things. I just wanted to kind of follow up with, should council approve this agreement, what are the next steps? Because this agreement just really gets us a toe over the starting line. I mean, there's a lot of heavy lifting and things that need to continue to go forward with this. So first step would be creation of a sales tax only TIF to support paying for the infrastructure needed. And so Nate Ellis is not finished working with us yet. He's done a great job. I will tell his secret that he did work very quickly on this economic development agreement, and he did a great job at it. We also need to have continued meetings with Wagner County Commissioners and Wagner County Economic Authority to move forward with potential economic agreements with those entities. This project significantly impacts Wagner County in general. We do have those economic impact numbers as well. So we want to see how they would like to partner and if they would like to partner on this project. We also, very important, and Notes has committed to this, and they've done this very well in Colorado Springs, is holding a public meeting to be held, in the next 60 to 90 days to provide information to residents regarding kind of the finalized plans. And notice of that meeting, letters will be distributed to homes within the area that are in close proximity. I just want to explain real quickly. Some people might say, well, why aren't we having the meeting right now to talk to the neighbors? There's a lot of what ifs and questions that we don't have answered. So as Bob presented, is we have to determine, where exactly is that site going to be laid out? And then they can work with their team to find out how far does that noise travel. By that time, we'll have a construction timeline that we can present to neighbors and say, this is when this construction will occur, this is when this street will occur. And they can also have a timeline on their project. And so we want to have a complete timeline and a presentation to be able to present before we just arrive at a meeting. And so those are kind of the next steps. But I, again, want to thank you all for a lot of your involvement within this. I appreciate the support. I know that you guys were ready to tell everybody a couple months ago, and we just weren't there yet. We weren't there with an agreement, so I really appreciate it. Thanking the city manager again for working with me on this. I mean, he jumped right in and helped me, and he gave me the faith that he knew I could do it. So I appreciate that, and I'll turn it over to you so you can kind of wrap us up on this project.
Okay, if I may, Mayor, members of council. Thank you, Jennifer. Let me just add my appreciation to everyone that is guiding us to the proverbial starting line. Because when you look at this agreement, all the deliverables, that is essentially where we're at. Second, the council's approval of this agreement, as the mayor mentioned just a minute ago, would be the latest example of demonstrating the importance of public-private partnerships. And we know that for Bass Pro, for example, that's a perfect example of a public-private partnership that has done tremendous to help with the growth of our community. So to me, this is just another example of our philosophy that we understand the importance of the private sector. Also, council's talked quite a bit about the importance of trying to capitalize on the thriving culture and arts entertainment industry and how many dollars there are, because I've heard from many of you about the fact that the generations are changing in terms of where they want to spend their money. And Bob didn't really go into it that in depth, but they've looked at how each generation is spending their money, and arts and entertainment is extremely important to the younger generations that are basically in their earning years. And so trying to take advantage of that, this certainly demonstrates that. The third thing, which council talks about a lot of times, and also the EDC talks about probably every day, is about job creation. And with this agreement and partnership, there's going to be short-term jobs, which Jennifer talked about, and there's going to be long-term jobs. The long-term jobs obviously are going to be in support of the venue. However, if you think about the number of events, the support for the traffic management that's going to be involved to help those that are going to be out there, making sure everyone has a really good experience. The fourth thing is, not only is this going to be a great tourism attractor, but eventually it's going to put additional revenue, and it's not always about the revenue per se. It's about the experience and residents having more money to spend their dollars locally, but eventually it's going to put the sales tax into the city's general fund, which helps in maintaining the high quality of life that that we have in our community. I know that's important, and this is a major opportunity for us to do that. And so for all these reasons that I mentioned earlier and then those that have been presented, and Jennifer did talk about that, and it is difficult to hold a public meeting right now because obviously we're not going to go spend dollars to develop, and neither is Notes Live going to go out and spend the money necessary to gather all the technical information to be able to address the questions the community may have. And so once we have all that information sometime later this year, we will be holding a public meeting, and Notes Live has agreed to facilitate that meeting. They have a professional company that helps them with addressing the company questions that folks may have from the community. So I'm excited about that partnership. And obviously I'm going to make it on a date that all the council members can be aware. We will notify everybody about the potential opportunity. So if you don't have any questions, I would ask council's consideration of the agreement that's before you.
Any further questions?
I'll make a motion to authorize and execute an economic development agreement by and among Sunset at Broken Arrow LLC.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Good job, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. Exciting. All right, so we're going to go back to the consent agenda item 5E, approval of and authorization to execute amendment number 1 to professional consultant agreement with Kimley Horn for design. Okay. Charlie.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Mr. Spurgeon. This item, obviously the reason we tabled it is because it's directly related to the public infrastructure improvements that Mr. Schwab just told you about. Actually, I believe it's the last council meeting. This council already approved approximately $198,000, I believe, to start on the survey and the geotech of all of the area we're talking about. That's 101st Street, all of Events Park. All that be boots on the ground, people out there surveying that in preparation that we need to start the design work. The amendment that's before you tonight, it's not how we would normally do a contract. Normally, I would get the whole proposal together and bring it to you and say, hey, this is going to be $1.5 million, $2 million, something like that. But the scale of what we're talking about is so massive. This contract's probably going to take me a month and a half to negotiate all the details out. But if we're going to hit that date of 2025, I need to be working now on the design. So what we're asking for tonight is $100,000 that the consultant can bill against hourly, not to exceed, to get started on design. And then we'll come back with a future amendment that'll be the rest of the lump sum for their design contract. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about that.
Any questions from?
I'll make a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the consultant agreement with Kimley Horn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have no preview ordinances. Wait, 9C.
Yeah,
Oh,
we have
where do we
one
go
more.
back? Oh, that's right. We're going to go
Don't
back
forget
up
it.
to 9C. We're all over the place tonight. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of authorization to execute amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilors, Mr. Spurgeon. So the item 9C is an amendment to an existing contract. And this is for that road that I talked about previously that runs north from Gary Street, east of Rosewood Elementary School. It's a proposed roadway that will cross the railroad, continue north, and tie into 91st Street, the ODOT improvements that I talked about a little bit at Highway 51. So in July of 2022, we hired HDR. We selected HDR because they're actually out of Omaha, Nebraska. They started in transportation. They're basically next door to Union Pacific Railroad. They work a lot hand in hand with Union Pacific. That was strategic on our part because we need coordination with Union Pacific. The contract was only for like $35,000 to do some conceptual layouts of the road that I kind of just talked about and actually get in front of Union Pacific to see if this is actually something that they would even consider. So in August, we turned in plans to Union Pacific in January, and by August, 8 months, they actually came out here with their consultants and said, yes, we're actually in favor of this. Shutting down 219th, which comes out of that business park, is a dangerous road. They said this is safer. It's right along the east side of the school. The school's in favor with it. They actually walked the site with Union Pacific, our consultant, and the city. So very good. And at that point in time, we came back and said, okay, this is a go. We need an amendment to the contract to do the full design. This was right before all the other stuff was taken off with Notes Live. So we were already moving forward for this. So tying in with Notes Live, this would be an incredible secondary or primary access in and out. We plan on 3 lanes, where the center lane will actually change direction. So if coming into the event, you would have 2 lanes in, 1 lane out, still got to have emergency access. And we still have to have access for the neighbors and the industrial park. So you still have to have access. And then after the event, you can flip that and have 2 lanes out, 1 lane in. Already talked it over with ODOT. They love the idea. They will work with us at the intersection to do whatever they need to do to make that work better. So the amendment before you is actually for full design. One other thing that we need to note here is the railroad is really, really concerned about the crossing. So right away, we're going basically 100 feet outside of right away on either side, making sure that crossing is established the way we want it, the way railroad wants it, so we can submit it to the railroad as quickly as possible. It generally takes a year for a railroad to actually go through that review process and permit. We actually have it scheduled right now under this agreement to have it submitted to the railroad probably January of 2024, so we can get moving as quickly as possible. Once you get outside of the railroad, they don't care about the road, so we can change whatever we need to slightly to make that work. Charlie had an idea that if we're going to do a construction manager on the on-site improvements, we may want to have 3 packages of design contracts, or not design contracts, but construction. So our consultant's actually going to design it in such a way that if we need to break it up, we can. All of this to expedite. What we want on Broken Arrow's side is we would love to have this thing in place before the first concert. That's a heavy, heavy lift with everything else going on out there at the park, plus potentially the school. Everybody is on board with this that we have talked to, everybody.
Yeah, this will be huge for the school as well.
It's huge. School's on board with it. The industrial park to the east is on board with it. And I've told you once before, there is a home, a residential home in that industrial park. They're actually on board because it all goes to a signal. It all goes to a signal. So,
And citizens, I mean.
I'm
with
sorry?
well, citizens bring kids to school, not just the school, but those citizens.
Absolutely.
They're going to be thrilled.
It's so much safer for the school, for everything out there. So the amendment, like I said, is to get the design moving and moving quickly.
You know, and as was mentioned, I'll be the vice mayor made a comment to that, and you did too. This has been going on for several years. We call it the gate. It's the only gate we have in Broken Arrow. And we have fought over that gate. This summer, we left the gate open, but that intersection that's going to be closed was a dangerous intersection, and our police department recommended that those kids not be coming to school that way, or their parents, because there's a curve, there's a hill. And so we kept that gate up, and the industrial people were really upset, the manufacturers, because they couldn't get through there then. And that's what we wanted, for the kids not to be able to do it. So that's been going on for several years, but this is going to work out perfect for our new amphitheater project. So
to your point, Councilor Parks, this is a crazy blend of traffic. So now you're going to have entertainment traffic. You have school, which is buses and riders dropping off, pickup, and you also have industrial, which are trucks. This road is crucial because it will actually, and the sports complex, it actually kind of splits that traffic, and we can manage it much, much better. So very excited about this.
I make a motion, we approve the execution of this amendment number 1 to the agreement for professional consulting services with HDR Engineering. I hit it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny.
I was just going to make a note real quick on 9.7 or 9F. I did not mention this, but I'll go on record. There was someone that did not wish to speak, but was neutral on the item 9F.
I'm sorry, I I did want to speak about this specific item.
Okay, well, it says that you did not wish to speak.
I think I initialed that and marked it out.
Okay.
So can we?
Can you, I mean, is that allowed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the
So-
chair's decision, so
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I think she needs-
come on up, Marion Colston.
You know, we've already voted on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can still listen to her.
Sorry.
See what she has to say.
I thought it said you didn't want to speak
Yeah.
yet also.
I'd be glad to look at the form, but, may I come up there and look at it?
Sure.
I wanted to speak about 9F, and I marked out, I do not wish to speak.
Right,
And that
but now
is-
you want to speak.
I always wanted to speak.
You're
You
given an
literally-
opportunity.
Okay,
That's
here's
fine.
your opportunity.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you-
Go ahead.
Yeah, you marked that you did not want to speak, but we're giving you the opportunity to speak. So,
Well, I had a long list of questions, but a lot of them have been answered. So that limits the number of questions that you'll have to hear from me. I had a question on the rezoning. First of all, have all the council members read the agreement, the 29-page agreement? Because I did. Oh, good. So then you guys can answer some of these questions for me.
Well, no. Just because I read something doesn't mean I can
can't make
answer.
remember if
I'm
I
not
read
I'm not an
29
expert,
pages,
but
okay.
our,
2
but we
minutes
have
and
people that
33
can.
seconds.
It talked about the city, not the developer, shall undertake the rezoning and/or planned land use. If we're talking about the authority, which is part of the city, how is the city, would that not be a conflict of interest to make the decision on the zoning? The city rezoning, having an application for rezoning on a city piece of property.
Danny,
Who else is going to approve us? Who else can approve it?
I don't know. That's the reason I'm
Yeah.
asking.
It's not a conflict,
Yeah.
but
That's,
yeah, we have
Okay.
done it before.
and then I noticed that there was talk about the rural water district 4 is listed in the agreement. And Mr. Schwab talked about the city already has water out there. Is that correct?
Yes, the water line in the events park is owned by the city of Broken Arrow.
Because I saw that if rural water could not service it, then the city would do it. That's great. Can the special assessment revenue be explained in layman's terms? I talked to Jennifer about that, and she said it's not a tax, it's a fee. And then someone told me that they can't require you to pay a fee. I don't know if that's true or not, but I understand that that was going to be part of the revenue that would help offset some of the expenses.
no, absolutely. I mean, I visited with the developer about the possibility of, because I've seen it in other municipalities where they have a special assessment to be used to help with pay for the maintenance of improvements. And the first thing I do when I have a question about legalities is go to legal. In this case, we went to our special counsel who determined that that is something that is certainly permissible in this particular case.
And I'm not questioning that it's permissible. It's just that many times those are considered taxes, and then that a tax needs to go before the people for a vote. That was my
Sure.
part of my question. Thank you.
Because I had the same question, Marianne, about
Oh,
making
great.
sure that whatever anytime the city looks at any type of fees or anything of that nature, we always go with legal and we look at exactly what the law is or what case law is or decisions have been made. And we did that in that case. And then it becomes a matter if council's willing to do that. And they said that they would.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because the language in here didn't call it a fee or didn't call it a tax. That was the reason I had those questions. Thank you very
sure.
much. And I'm just curious on the public safety design operation requirements at a long list. Are those the exact same as all the other events that happen out at the events park?
I don't have the list in front of me, but we have a special events committee that looks at every single activity that happens that submits an application. And in this case, we've had some both general and detailed discussion about what's going to be needed. And so for us, we're looking at the experience, and where you can't make improvements, you move traffic by management of that traffic. And so because of the number of events, we've looked at what is required to make sure that, number one, we have a great experience, i.e. cars pedestrians being able to get in and get out quickly, and to determine exactly what would be necessary in order to ensure the vehicles can get in and out safely. And you do that with the management of public safety personnel.
Mr. Spurgeon, if I may
Sure.
answer also, the items that were put in on public safety came directly from the chief of police and the fire chief. And Notes Live accepted everyone as they were submitted. They didn't push back on any
No,
of it.
I don't have a problem with them whatsoever. I was just curious if this was a standard list of public safety and operation requirements for all the events out there, because if it is, it's a long list. So,
Well, I
and
mean,
I think it's great. I'm not complaining.
No,
at all.
I understand. I mean, you're talking about the potential for having 12,500 people there, which in one sense is the equivalent of a small high school football game. So you need to make sure you never have enough personnel that are going to be on site, and then you got to make sure you can move traffic in and out. And so yes, each event, we have certain conditions. I understand your question. We have certain conditions we require of everybody. Then we also look at what you want to do and see if the police and fire specifically say if there's any additional requirements we have to do to make sure that the public is safe.
Well, I appreciate your explanation, because I know that the city has a very comprehensive requirement for events, and I just wasn't sure if this
Well,
was the
Mary Ann, I'll
same.
help you with that too. When I worked at the police department and I put on Night Out Against Crime, which is now Spooktacular, I had to fill out the same application everybody else did. And it was a long application. And even though I was with the city, I still had to meet all those requirements. So.
And like I said, it's not a complaint. It was
Yeah,
just a
no,
question.
no.
Because-
No, I think it's good
Yeah.
because I get a chance to address the public that's going to watch this meeting is that, I mean, we've done a lot of due diligence and made sure that we've addressed this, because you're talking about the number of events that could happen throughout the year and making sure that we have a plan in place. And that will include possibly going look at a couple of different venues that open to make sure that we're consistent. As Norm said, a number of the conditions that are in the agreement came from talking to the leadership in other communities about what their plan is for operational management.
No, and as you know, I had stated on social media that I thought the location was great because it's right next to the events park.
Yes.
But thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so now item 10 is preview ordinances. There are none. There are no ordinances. Remarks and inquiries by governing body members. I wanted to congratulate Kenny on a 40th year high school reunion this weekend.
You're all hard.
I know that because he graduated with my brother-in-law. So, and he was in town for it. So, congrats. And right about now, we have an honor flight arriving at Tulsa International Airport. So we were hoping we'd get done and we could maybe rush over there and welcome them home. But just wanted to point that out. I also wanted to let everyone know that the BA Intertribal Veteran Powwow, second annual, is going to be this weekend, this Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at the Freshman Academy. And then I want to congratulate Star Jewelers on 50 years. They had their 50th anniversary this year, 3 generations right here in the Rose District. That's amazing. So, anyone else?
And you can walk over right from the Freshman Academy on our beautiful New Orleans Square sidewalks over to the Hops, Bops, and Bites event that we have going on in the Southwest Quadrant, kind of by the McDonald's. And it's from 5 to 10 p.m. There is local music, beer, wine, food. Bring your lawn chairs. It's going to be, I think it's our third year. Yeah, it is so much fun, and we're going to have great weather. So everyone come out and have a good time. Bring your family.
I have something. Tomorrow is National Coffee with a Cup Day.
That's right.
And so from 8 to 10 at 1101 North Aspen, I'm assuming, is that McDonald's? Is Chief still in here?
Yeah.
Well, 1101 North Aspen, you can have coffee with a cup from 8 until 10.
Yeah.
I bet that's 61st in Aspen.
Okay.
Red Bill and Roos.
Albany and Aspen, sorry.
I was also going to say congratulations. BAPD hosted their self-defense class yesterday at Battle Creek Church in the youth room. It was very successful. I did stop by there. They had 25 to 30 folks in there. We did have a couple of news stations come out and cover that. And it looks like people were learning, having a lot of fun. So.
I was going to go, but I've been gone for 2 weeks. So I was like, I'm going to just enjoy my home for one night. So.
Were you mentioning Star? We did a recognition, a little celebration today for Star Jewelers. Is that where you mentioned it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you already mentioned it?
She did. I did
It's
not.
on my list.
I
It's
didn't even
been
hear
3 or
it.
4 minutes, so.
I didn't even hear it. Well, let's mention them again. 50 years in the Rose District. So,
Well, do you want to mention DC?
Had a great trip to Washington DC, except for the flight out and the flight back. No, I'll tell you what, and this is not anything to do with city business, but I didn't like it. We flew to New York to get to Washington
We
DC.
did.
Yeah.
And I've been there, Washington DC, many times, and New York's not on the path. So I was complaining because we didn't. But let me tell you, we flew into New York, LaGuardia Airport, and we banked the plane right over the Statue of Liberty. You could see Manhattan, you could see everything. One of the most beautiful scenes I'd ever saw. Then I felt bad because I was complaining about it. But we did have a good day and a half. Got to visit with our representatives, both of our senators and our representatives, and it was very enlightening. And I've been to several of these trips in years ago, and this is one of the better ones as far as getting the representatives and senators in to visit with us one-on-one, and then go back out and visit with the next one. But it really was great. It was a great event, and we learned a lot from working with our senators.
Thank you, Nick, and the
representatives.
chamber. for-
Yeah, I was going to say it was
Yeah.
hosted by the chamber.
They did
Some
a
of us had a direct
great
flight
job.
out there and back. So
Well,
Some
you
of
know,
us had to run because we had 15 minutes to get to our gate.
fast we had to run.
You kept up with me though. It was very good.
When she kept up with me.
And in the words of our vice mayor, will say the Rose District is my baby and my ward, in addition to part of New Orleans Square.
yeah. All right. Oh, I should get both. Wow.
All right. Final event next Saturday, the 14th, is the Cool Girls Car Show. So don't forget that. That'll be on Main Street as well. So, all right. Remarks from City Manager.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, I see Michael Gordon's in there, and I just want to thank him for his leadership on the DC fly-in, and also just reiterate Josh and Jennifer and Nick and the outstanding job all staff did of coordinating everything. It's not easy to get all legislators together, and they did a yeoman's work, and so I'm very grateful for what they did.
During a historic time.
Yes, absolutely. Very historic time. A couple of things I want to mention is that we're just probably a few weeks away from 209th, from 71st to approximately 81st opening up. So it's back to two-way traffic, and we're just finishing up. So I'm excited to say that that road is going to be open. And Kenny told me today is that he's working with his team to see when we'd be able to go out to bid on the North Mile, which would be 71st to 61st, which obviously is one of the most challenged roads remaining in our community. So I just want the public to know, because I've been asked about it a couple of times on the BA breakdown, what's going on with 209th, also known as 37th. And we hadn't forgotten it. It's a bond project, and we want to try to get a little further down the road with Albany, with those being work, and also County Line Road. But we certainly are looking at when we can go out to bid for that road. I checked with Kenny and also Tim Robbins, and then I've spoken to superintendent. Based on the information I've received late last Friday, the intersection at County Line in Albany should be open within less than 10 days now. Less than 10 days or so, it'll be open. So I informed Mr. Perry about that. I just want to mention two other things. Is the resident that came a couple of meetings ago with the questions about the renewal of alarms. We're looking at that. I've spoken to Kenny today, and we question whether that is absolutely necessary. So we may have something for council to consider probably in November. So, and then finally, just a reminder is we will be scheduling a special meeting sometime later this year, probably November, to look at our long-range water and/or sewer plans. I'd mentioned that back in the summertime. And so we're going to take a look at that and have those conversations with regard to having the engineering construction or consultant come give a presentation to the council or in their capacity as the authority. So that's all I have, Mayor.
I'm sorry, I know I had my turn a little earlier, but I just want to make sure the citizens know, because I know there's been a couple instances tonight where citizens brought something to us and we acted on it.
Yeah.
And so I just think that's important. I mean, we do listen to what our citizens want. So we're very approachable and easy to get a hold of. So if anybody has an idea, bring it on.
I know I've already had my turn too, but in case city manager didn't mention that particular one, he talked about the intersection by the high school. And I have had quite a few complaints and I couldn't remember how long we had set up, but to start with, how long that was. But it's really gotten to be bogged down. So I appreciate your comment on that and following up with that.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll keep Mr. Perry informed so they'll know. But I feel good that, when Tim Robbins tells me something, it's usually pretty accurate. So I have a lot of
No
high
pressure.
faith in because he gives me good information. So thanks, Tim. So
All right. We have no executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn. Good, I guess it.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority to order. Roll call.
Green.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Parks.
Here.
Gillespie.
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent.
Second, when she does that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. There are no public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, or awards. There is no general authority business. Any remarks from governing body members? City manager?
no, Madam Chair.
There is no executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Call the Broken Arrow. Right? Oh,
Yeah, we didn't get that vote recorded for the adjournment.
yeah. There we go. Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority to order. Roll call.
Green.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Parks.
Here.
Gillespie.
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call. There are no public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, or awards. General authority business, 6A, consideration, discussion, possible approval of and authorization to execute an economic development agreement by and among Sunset at Broken Arrow LLC and the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority in the city of Broken Arrow. Jennifer Rush.
Good evening, trustees, chair, vice chair, and city manager. We went over the full presentation of this in council meeting. This is an agreement with the Economic Development Authority, City Council, and also Sunset at Broken Arrow. I'm happy to do the full presentation again. It was
Yes,
really
please.
fun, actually, and I think that was like a good rehearsal for us. But I just want to open it up, if the city manager has any other comments or if we have any other questions regarding it. But it's basically the same agreement that was presented in council.
I do not have anything to add except for, obviously, I know how important transparency is to the governing body. And so I've mentioned that the developer, as I will call them, will begin a major marketing campaign in terms of recognition for the development starting tomorrow. And we will be putting out information, and we will continue to provide additional information. And once again, once we're in a position to have the public meeting, I will check with council members and their availability as well as the availability of the developer. And then we will coordinate something at the appropriate venue. So should you receive any inquiries from folks, you just let them know what you learned this evening about the fact we are going to be having a discussion about it. And we'll keep council posted. As you know, there's a lot of action steps and deliverables. And so I'll be visiting with Jennifer at some point in the very near future to start putting regular updates on the beta meeting like we do for Aspen Ridge, so the council members will, in their capacity as the authority, know where work has been done or some of the milestones that we've passed.
Good.
That's all I have, Mayor.
All right.
I will make a motion to approve and authorize, execute an economic development agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Roll call. Any remarks by governing body members? City manager?
Just want to say I appreciate the authority's time recently when discussing the Innovation District and all of the input that was given, and that I know that the EDC is looking forward to going for the best practice trip coming up so we can look at what we can learn in Chattanooga and then match that up with what we've been discussing in terms of the marketing analysis and just continuing those conversations. So thank you for your time.
There is no executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call. We are adjourned.
All right.
Stay safe.
Exciting night.
Yeah, it's a good stuff.
Yeah.
Good week.
Can Jennifer sleep now? Or is
Yeah.
it just the beginning?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. It's like, can she take a
Does
breath
she
now,
take-
or
Tears
is
of
it
joy.
like, oh,
Yeah. She can cry now.
Tears of joy.
Well,
You walk in that door at 7:30.